and welcome to Miss Bailey's Daily Dose. Today we are going to be learning the difference between vertebrates and invertebrates, and we're going to be able to sort animals under the correct criteria. So before we start, we need to know what a vertebrate is and what an invertebrate is and what the difference is. So I've got a quick video for you guys to watch that gives you all the information you will need.
The world is full of many different types of animals. Some swim, some fly, some breathe air, and some breathe underwater. Some have skeletons, and others don't. To help us understand the differences between the animals in our world, scientists classify or sort animals into different groups that share important characteristics. The two largest groups of animals are vertebrates and invertebrates. Vertebrates are animals that have spines or backbones. Invertebrates are animals that do not have backbones. Most of the animals in the world are invertebrates. Some examples of invertebrates are octopus and squid, insects, arachnids, starfish and sea urchins, jellyfish, crabs and lobsters, clams, and many more creatures. On land, most invertebrates are fairly small, but in the water, they may grow to much larger sizes, as the water will support them even without a skeleton. Vertebrates make up less than 5% of all animal species on Earth, but if I asked you to think of an animal, you would probably choose a vertebrate. Vertebrates are divided into different classes or groups. Several of these classes are specific types of fish. For example, jawless fish, like lampreys and hagfish, and cartilaginous fish, like sharks and rays. For simplicity's sake, these other classes are usually lumped together with bony fish and just called fish. The four remaining classes of vertebrates will all be very familiar: amphibians, reptiles, birds, and mammals. Let's look at the characteristics that make an animal a fish. Fish live in the water, and they can breathe underwater. They use gills, not lungs, to get oxygen from the water around them. Fish have scales and fins. They are cold-blooded, which means that they cannot control their own body temperature, which changes based on the temperature of the environment around them. Most fish also lay eggs. Amphibians are a group of animals that include frogs, toads, newts, salamanders, and more. Amphibians, like fish, are cold-blooded. Unlike fish, amphibians can live on land and in the water, and have smooth, moist skin. Amphibians lay their delicate jelly-covered eggs in the water. When the eggs hatch, the young may not look much like their parents, because some amphibians must go through metamorphosis, or a big change, to become adults. Aside from some fish, amphibians are the only vertebrates that undergo metamorphosis. Reptiles you might know are turtles, snakes, crocodiles, and lizards. Like fish and amphibians, reptiles are cold-blooded. Unlike them, reptiles are air-breathing animals and cannot breathe underwater. Even reptiles that live in the water must come to the surface to breathe. You can tell if an animal is a reptile instead of an amphibian if it has dry, scaly skin. Most reptiles lay eggs, but they are very different from the eggs of amphibians or fish. Their eggs are laid out of the water and have a protective shell. For the most part, reptile eggs have soft, leathery shells. Birds are easy to recognize. They are the only type of animals in the world to have feathers. Like reptiles, birds can only breathe air. All birds have 2 legs, and all birds also have wings, but not all birds fly. Unlike fish, amphibians, and reptiles, birds are warm-blooded. That means that they can maintain a constant body temperature. Birds lay eggs, but unlike the eggs of reptiles, birds' eggs have hard shells. The last group of animals we are going to talk about is mammals. Mammals are the group of animals that humans belong to. Like birds, mammals are warm-blooded and breathe air. Even mammals that live in water must come to the surface to breathe. All mammals have at least some fur or hair, although some have less than others. Almost all mammals give birth to live young instead of laying eggs, and all mammals feed their babies milk. A fun fact about mammals is that mammals are the only animals to have ears that stick out. The animal kingdom is classified into many different groups based on animal characteristics to help us understand the world around us. Saying an animal is an invertebrate, a vertebrate, a fish, amphibian, reptile, bird, or mammal tells us many things about it that can help us to understand its needs and behavior. I hope you enjoyed learning about animal classification today.
So that was a quick video just covering vertebrates and invertebrates, and then some of the other classifications for animals that we looked at last year when we were in year 1 and year 2. So to move us on, today we're looking at vertebrates and invertebrates. So again, from that video, vertebrates are animals that have that backbone, like ourselves, our spine, and invertebrates do not have the backbone. So let's see if we can have a look at these animals and figure out whether they're a vertebrate or invertebrate. So we've got a cat first. Do you think a cat should go in the vertebrate category or the invertebrate category? Has it got a spine? It is, of course, a vertebrate, just like us. So it does have a spine, and this is an X-ray of a cat. So you can see here, its spine and backbone, so it is a vertebrate. What about a worm? Does a worm have a backbone? Do you think it's a vertebrate or do you think it's an invertebrate? Well, a worm is actually an invertebrate. It does not have a backbone. So on our X-ray, you cannot see it because it does not have one. So it doesn't show that spine on our X-ray. A dinosaur, so I've got a triceratops here. Remember that's the one that's got the 2 horns here and 1 there. Is it a vertebrate or is it an invertebrate? What do you think? What was a dinosaur? Was it a vertebrate or was it an invertebrate? It is, of course, a vertebrate because it has a backbone. So you can see here the skeleton of the triceratops, and that means it's a vertebrate. Humans, that's us. Do we have a backbone? You might even know what that backbone is called. It is called our spine. So, of course, we are a vertebrate. And you can see a lovely X-ray here of our skeleton. A fish. Do you think a fish has a spine, a vertebrate? Or is it an invertebrate? It is a vertebrate. And you can see here the spine of the fish and the skeleton. It does have that backbone and therefore it's a vertebrate. A jellyfish. Now, if you were listening in the video, you will know exactly what a jellyfish is, whether it's a vertebrate or an invertebrate. A jellyfish does not have a backbone, so it's an invertebrate. And if we were looking at it on the X-ray, it would look like this, because I can't see its bones or its backbone. A butterfly. Do you think a butterfly is a vertebrate? Does it have a backbone, or is it an invertebrate? A butterfly is an invertebrate, Like it said in the video, a lot of the smaller animals are invertebrates, like our insects, just like a butterfly. So it does not have a backbone. Now, if we go further into this classification, we can split our skeletons into 3 different categories. So we've got endoskeletons, which is a type of vertebrate. So humans, ourselves, we're under endoskeletons. And that means that our skeleton is inside of our bodies. So it's called an endoskeleton. So that's the vertebrates. Then in the invertebrates category, there are 2 separate sections. So we've got exoskeletons. So a lot of our insects have exoskeletons, and that means that their skeleton is on the outside of their body. They still don't have a backbone, so they still don't have, like we have, our spine, but their skeleton's on the outside of their body. And then there's also hydrostatic skeletons. And animals that have hydrostatic skeletons means that they don't have bones, like jellyfish. So they actually use fluid to move around in the water rather than a skeleton like we use with our bones, because our bones help us to move our ligaments and our muscles. So, endoskeletons. Animals with endoskeletons have skeletons at the inside of their bodies. Okay, so we have our skeleton in the inside of our bodies. Elephants have skeletons inside their body. Rats, mice, cats, dogs, all of those sorts of animals. As the animal grows, so does their skeleton. So just like us, when we're babies, our bones are a lot smaller. Then as we get older, they grow and they get bigger and stronger. Endoskeletons are lighter than exoskeletons. So lighter, easier, and because we've got muscles and ligaments, they help us to move as well. So we can move freely in different ways. Exoskeletons, that means that their skeleton's on the outside of their body. They don't grow with the animal, so their exoskeleton is fixed, it will not grow, therefore the animal has to shed its skeleton in order to produce a new one. So when it's a small crab, it has its endosskeleton, and then as it gets bigger, it sheds that skeleton and forms a new one to make it bigger. And then hydrostatic skeletons. These are the animals, mainly fish, different types of fish like jellyfish and starfish, and we've got some of our mini beasts like our slugs and our worms that don't have bones at all. So they have a hydrostatic skeleton, and instead, like I said before, they are filled with fluid, and that helps them to move freely. And all animals with hydrostatic skeletons are invertebrates. Not only do they not have a backbone, they don't have any bones. So they are the 3 types of skeletons. We've got vertebrates with endoskeletons, and then invertebrates with exoskeletons, skeletons on the outside of their body, and hydrostatic skeletons, which means they have no bones at all. So see whether you can now sort the animals into the correct categories for vertebrates, invertebrates, and then endoskeletons, exoskeletons, and hydrostatic skeletons. Thank you.